Okay, we will begin our class here. And first announcement is that we have the full moon in Aries coming in Tuesday, day after tomorrow. And let me see the time on that. It's 8:35 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time.
This Tuesday?
Yeah. So if you want to find your current time, just put in 8:35 Mountain Daylight Time on Google and then put your time zone and hit search, and then Google will tell you what time it is in your time zone. And Google comes in pretty handy for stuff like that. Okay, so it's an important one. It's focuses on the resurrection of Christ, the thought does, and on development of the mind in Aries. And so that is an important festival for the hierarchy.
Is that the Wesak Festival?
No, that's next month is the Wesak. That's the big one. And for the Wesak, we'll maybe have a special meeting for that. We'll begin with a meditation and doing the Great Invocation. First of all, we'll sound the ohms, and remember the ohm has power to dispel all negative vibes. So just leaving the positive vibes of the pure spirit if it's done with the right intent. Visualize all darkness being pushed back and only light remaining, filling your whole body. Om, 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 om. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. Visualize above your space a point of light from the mind of God, streaming forth, bursting forth, coming and streaming and filling your entire body with light. And see yourself in a circle joined by other brothers and sisters, approximately 24, connected, and streams of light are coming into them. Each person in the group is glowing with light. And you can close your eyes and see a light on your forehead, permeating your entire being, filling your whole body from your head to your fingertips, to the bottom of your toes, to your aura. The light is stretching out, including everyone in the group, manifesting throughout the entire planet. See everyone on earth picking up a little more light than they had before, giving them a little more hope than they had before. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. Look up and see the point of light again, originating point of light. And within that point of light is also a point of love that streams forth and includes the group, and it includes you, and you feel it in your heart. You feel a burning in your heart, a wonderful, pleasant, healing fire that's spreading from your heart to your head, to your fingertips, to your toes. Your whole body is full of light and love. You feel the hearts of the people in the group. They're all good. They're all connected to soul. You sense the presence of Christ in you and everyone else in the group. And this presence touches every soul on the planet, replacing fear with love. Fear has a less foothold now than it did a minute ago. Sound the Om and sense the truth of this statement. Om. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. Sense an invisible purpose, that you are connected to a high intelligence that governs the earth, connected to He who governs the solar system and the cosmos. See yourself as part of this divine purpose. Repeat after me. I sense the purpose of the Lord, and I am willing to do my part to manifest higher will. From the center, which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Visualize this door. Behind the door are all kinds of negative possibilities. You take the door by the handle and you close it. Behind that is all the fears, the hatreds, the desire to control, the negative aspects that we want to seal. You close the door and you lock it. And you lift up this door and you see yourself on a cliff facing the ocean. And you hold this door in your hand, and you throw it. And it goes way, way out into the ocean. and lands in the middle of the deep ocean and sinks, never to be seen again. As you watch the door sinking, sense a feeling of great relief. A lightness, like you're pulled up to a higher vibration and state of mind. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Now the door is sealed. Light, sense the light, that originating light that has never left, that we bask in the beginning. Let light and sense the love and sense the higher purpose is restoring a divine plan on the earth that will bring peace on earth, goodwill to humankind. In these times of trouble where people are worried about the virus, we want to strengthen our power to heal and bring down healing life energy. And so we're going to say the mantra, which is called the Song of Eternal Life. And we're going to go through that. But first of all, focus again, see us all in a circle. Sense the person on your right. Hold his or her hand. Sense the person on your left. Hold his or her hand. Sense the connecting energy of everyone in the circle, and sense an energy flowing through the entire group. In the center, visualize a light, a point of light bursting forth into a flame that's warming everyone in the group, making us one. Sense the oneness and sense the feeling of the person on your right and on your left, and the connection of the whole group as if we are one life. We will have a moment of silence while you sense this. Put your attention on feeling the one life of the group. Now follow after me. I'll say these words slowly so you can follow along if you don't have them memorized. We thank you, Father, Mother, Spirit, for the energy of life which streams from universal source to us, for the life that circulates through each atom and cell, permeating our entire bodies and minds, bringing health and vitality to all of our living parts. Sense this life energy. We're all from the same source, and we're far away from that source, but the power of thought can direct us back home. So that source of light and love and power is still available if we focus. We bask in this life. We feel the life. We are the life which knows not corruption, the life which makes all things new, the life which always is. We feel the life from our toes to the top of our heads and give thanks for its abundance. We praise and love our bodies and all their parts for receiving this life and spirit and source. We praise body, mind, soul, and spirit for receiving without ceasing. And think of this, receiving without ceasing, giving you health and vitality. See yourself as having so much vitality that you can share with others who are down in spirits, others who are suffering. See yourself as not only a receiver, but a sender, that you can receive all that you need and more and send the surplus to where it is needed. We'll seal this with the Om again. Om. We started the meeting with the Great Invocation, which was given in 1945. What a lot of students don't realize is that's actually the third part of the Great Invocation. The Great Invocation consists of 3 different parts. The first part was given out in 1935 before the war, and it was given out with kind of the hope of avoiding a war. And it didn't, the DK tells us that it did a lot of good, but people didn't focus quite correctly to give the disciples power to avoid the war, in the fact that they saw it as more of something for personal benefit rather than thinking of benefit for the world. I mean, so he says this is really important in using these mantras to think of beyond personal benefit. Because if you focus on benefiting the maximum number of people, you will be included in that. So you will always benefit personally whenever you do a good work. So it's important that the disciples not put a lot of focus on what benefits them personally, because if you seek to serve, you will be given increased personal power so that you will become a better, a more useful tool in the hands of the hierarchy. The second stanza of the Great Invocation was given out 1940, just as the war was having its fiery beginning. And then, as I said, the third part, the one that we still say today regularly, was given out after the war ended. And he says it's this third stanza is so potent that they had to wait until the Allies had the war under control before they could could actually give this out, so that they could be assured that we were on a track toward the new age of peace in the right way, which wouldn't have taken place if Hitler would have won the war. So we'll go over these these mantrams. I'll read it over to you. The first stanza, given in 1934. You can just say it along with me. I'll read it slowly. You can say it in your minds as I right after I say it, because it's still pertinent today, because we're facing a pretty trying situation now. It's not a physical war, but you know, concerning World War II, DK made an interesting statement. He said if the World War II had not happened, he said some type of plague would have happened that would have killed at least as many people as the war did. But such a plague was not necessary because World War II fulfilled the requirements of the first ray energy. So, so it's interesting. Maybe we've averted World War III and we're having a plague instead. But let's hope it doesn't wind up killing a large number of people. But it's definitely going to create a disturbance for us, and the reaction to the virus may wind up a lot worse than the virus itself. That's my main concern. So anyway, these mantrams he gave out is very pertinent to today. So first of all, this is before the big problem occurred. He gave this in 1935. Let the forces of light bring illumination to mankind. Let the spirit of peace be spread abroad. Now, he says there is actually an entity, which he calls the spirit of peace. So this is actually an entity that's in charge of this peaceful presence that many disciples pick up now and then. May men of goodwill everywhere meet in a spirit of cooperation. If he were to say that today, he'd probably say people, because he wasn't politically correct in his day. May forgiveness on the part of all men be the keynote at this time. Well, we need that today, don't we? We have, everybody has a grudge against each other politically, especially the political left and the right. They need to just get together and forgive each other a little bit and learn to work together a lot better than they're doing right now, that's for sure. Let power attend the efforts of the great ones. So let it be, and help us to do our part. Okay, short and sweet. Let power attend the efforts of the great ones. There's great lives that's overseeing this planet that are doing everything they can to make sure our spiritual evolution moves forward. And sometimes that will happen in ways that we don't understand. Like I said last time when the mantra we give, that there's a love that underlies the happenings of the time. And so the happenings of the time, they're behind them somewhere is a manifestation of love that can be revealed, even in times of great stress. Okay, the second stanza was given in 1940, and this was when the war began to be really inflamed. And so DK was very concerned at this point that Hitler could actually win the war and we could have the world ruled by Nazis. And there was a possibility that the hierarchy would have to withdraw and work behind the scenes for 1,000 years if he would have won. Now, Hitler said he was going to have an empire that would rule for 1,000 years, and DK kind of give a verification that it could have been 1,000 years. So we're lucky we averted that danger. But the irritating thing for the disciples of light is that once you get rid of one evil, there's always an attempt to manifest another one. So there's always something that we have to deal with. It's like they say, liberty requires eternal vigilance. Light and liberty and love all requires eternal vigilance to maintain. We just can't reach a plateau and then say, we have arrived, now we don't have to do anything. Workers of the light always have to be aware and work for the higher cause always. And so anyway, this is the second stanza. Let the lords of liberation issue forth. Let them bring succor to the sons of men. Let the rider from the secret place come forth, and coming save. Come forth, Almighty One. Let the souls of men awaken to the light. And may they stand with massed intent. Let the fiat of the Lord go forth. The end of woe has come. Come forth, Almighty One. The hour of service of the saving force has now arrived. Let it be spread abroad, Almighty One. Let light and love and power and death fulfill the purpose of the coming one. The will to save is here. The love to carry forth the work is widely spread abroad. The act of aid of all who know the truth is also here. Come forth, O Mighty One, and blend these three. Construct a great defending wall. The rule of evil now must end. The wording of this is important to examine because this is the beginning of the war. 1940 began 1939, but this was in 1940 when it was very intense. And he spoke as if victory was assured for the sons of light. Okay, so this is a very positive mantra that was given out in a very negative time. And so we can kind of apply it today. But he keeps talking interesting about the mighty one. Come forth, O mighty one. Who do you think that mighty one is? Any ideas?
The Christ?
Could be. I think it's like all inspired words have more than one meaning. It can represent the Christ, the second coming of Christ, or the reappearance of the Christ as it's worded in ancient wisdom. It can be a mighty connection between us as individuals and our source. And that connects us with a mighty one or mighty power right there. It could be also the Ancient of Days. It could be just the chain of lives, because of the chain of lives from the hierarchy to the Sanat Kamura, to the solar logo, the earthly logos, the solar logos, and on up. And so we have a connection to many mighty lives. And in addition to this, he talks about the avatar of synthesis, which we assume has come, and he is working in conjunction with the Christ himself to help to usher in the new age. So it could be referring to, it's probably referring to several different levels, because all words that's spoken from the spirit or the higher self have more than one interpretation. When Christ gave the various parables, for instance, the people heard the parables and they interpreted according to the way that they were living their lives. But the parables, many, they all have a deeper, several deeper meanings, and some of the deeper meanings are quite fascinating. And so that's something to always take in consideration. And what's kind of funny is sometimes you'll hear people arguing over the interpretation of a scripture or inspired writing, and they may both be right, not because truth is different, but because both of them see a different part of the elephant, so to speak, different piece of the elephant. And they're both right in what they're perceiving, but they're perceiving something differently. And oftentimes what they need to do is just look through each other's eyes and try to understand what the other person is seeing. Okay. Any comments or questions before we move on here?
There are forces from the center, which you call Sirius, where what's known as the White Lodge, which are entities so advanced that we have no mental concept, but they do guide and they do look over the progress of this planet.
Yeah, and I think the avatar synthesis, if I remember right, comes from Sirius. He's extraplanetary, and we assume he is cooperating with a hierarchy now, and he represents, now the Christ represents the energy of love, wisdom, but the avatar of synthesis represents the first ray of power. So he lends power to the Christ, giving extra energy for accomplishing the higher will here upon the earth. And eventually there will be groups that will make a more secure contact with the hierarchy. And when that happens, we will the servants here upon the earth, just regular people like you and me, will have more power to permeate society with higher teachings. Okay, real good, Ed. Any other comments?
Yeah, JJ. If you're looking at an interpretation from a physical incarnation, you could look at the one mighty and strong, the Christ power working through a disciple or a group of disciples that is kind of spoken of in Mormonism.
Yeah, the Mormon prophecy is there will come one mighty and strong that will set in order the house of God, and that could have a number of interpretations behind it. The one mighty and strong is actually the Holy Spirit, or the spirit that connects us to our higher self. And when that connection is made, anyone that makes that connection becomes mighty and strong, not because they are mighty and strong as a personality, but the connection produces a power that is mighty and strong. And the one mighty and strong is also mentioned in Isaiah chapter 28, I believe it is. And so it's in the Bible as well. Okay, a good comment there. We will see. We will probably be seeing some interesting things happen, because one of the things about a problem like we're seeing manifest now is it brings forth higher intelligence manifesting here upon the earth to assist us if we call upon it. And one of the things that DK says won World War II was, people become really concerned about losing their freedoms, and they begin to call upon God or the masters or whoever they look toward. And he says the massed intent of humanity captured higher lives that are even beyond this earth, and they actually assisted. One of the things that they did, that the massed intent of humanity did during World War II, was they clouded the minds of the German scientists so that they lost interest in developing the atomic bomb, and they inspired the minds of the Allied scientists so that they were the ones that were successful. If Hitler had been successful instead of the Allies, it would have been a total disaster. But but right now, we're having humanity reached out with a massed intent that they haven't since World War II, perhaps. And so this massed intent, I hear all kinds of stories about people supposedly praying that don't normally pray, or reach out, or of thinking of God that don't normally think of God, and or the Spirit, and they don't normally think of the Spirit. And so people are reaching out. So the massed intent will grow, and this could produce some type of spiritual manifestation that is totally unforeseen at this point in time. So we will wait and see what happens.
I've been noticing a lot of people stepping up to the bat during this Corona thing. It's like the musicians can't have concerts because they can't have that many people in one room, kind of thing. And so collectively or individually, I don't know if they're connected or not, but a bunch of them have put out videos from their living room, and they'll pick up a guitar and they're performing to their audiences from their homes. And Jeff Dunham, the ventriloquist, he's been creating a brand new puppet in a series of videos. And he says he's born during the coronavirus. So, he's going to have this special energy about him. And it's like, people have just figured it out themselves that, hey, we got a problem here. Let's do what we can to fix it. I'm just really pleased to have seen all this happening.
Yeah, I think how thankful we should be that we have the internet at this time, because let's say we had no internet connection and everybody just had to stay in their homes, we'd probably be driving each other crazy. We'd be reading lots of books. We'd probably be reading lots of books, if nothing else. And
probably wouldn't know the severity of it and would just go on having a normal life as if it wasn't. And then it'd go away, and all this much ado about nothing would be gone.
Yeah, you might have some truth there. That's what happened during the last pandemic, the Spanish flu in 1918. Spanish flu hit the worst possible time. We were right in the middle of World War I. We were fighting a world war, and the Spanish flu began in a little town in Kansas. And then it infected a military base, and the military people spread it around the world. Thank God they also spread it to the enemy, so everybody got it. And as I said last week, it was named the Spanish flu because the allies, or the people fighting the war, the nations involved in the war, downplayed the plague. Whereas the Spanish were fairly neutral, so they reported it honestly, and they had a lot higher percentage of people that were reported having the flu, so it got nicknamed the Spanish flu, even though it started in Kansas, which is kind of funny. Poor Spanish people got blamed for that flu. And everybody kept saying, well, how come those Spanish have so many cases of the flu there? But it turned out, when everything was said and done, that they didn't really have that much more than anybody else. It's just that they were honest about their reporting, that was kind of covered up. They tried to have life go on as normal, but the economy went on, and we actually fought and won a world war when we had a flu that was a lot worse than the virus we have today. Yeah, you see, Spanish flu, 500 million people were infected. That's 1/4 of the world's population at that time. Can you imagine that? Do you know, last time I said 1 in a million people got it here on, I read my decimal point wrong. It was 1 in 11,000 last week. This week, it's 1 in 6,220 people in the world. Wait, let me see if I got this right. Yeah, I get it. In the United States, 1 person out of 2,600 has been infected so far, and one out of around 20,000 have actually died in the United States from it. So the chances of you getting it aren't nearly as bad as the Spanish flu was. Plus, it's not as terrible of a disease. Once you got the Spanish flu, you were like coughing up blood after a really short period of time, and having tremendous headaches. And people said it felt like a spike was being pounded in their head. And it was a terrible disease, affected 25% of the population of the world. And during this time, life continued as normal, and we won a world war. So it's almost funny when you think about it. But when I read history books about World War I, it's like the Spanish flu was like a footnote. Like it was just kind of a thing that happened that nobody paid much attention to. But when you look at the attention we're giving this virus today, which isn't as bad, it's amazing that those people back in 1918 were able to remain sane with everything going on, fighting World War, fighting the flu, the worst plague they've had since the Black Death, and actually killed more people than the Black Death. Not a higher percentage, but a higher number. But so it's pretty amazing. So in the United States, there's been 123,000 cases, and there's been 2,229 deaths. So we're having today, and also another thing that I find is interesting is there's only one country that I've been able to find that has tried to continue life as normal, and that is Sweden. And they still have their schools open, grocery stores open, their restaurants are open. And what they're not ignoring the virus. They're putting out warnings and telling people how to protect themselves, but they're leaving it up to the individual. And their infection rate is about 30% less than the United States. Now, it could get a lot worse, but that's going to be an important nation to look at to see where that goes to, because if they're able to maintain fairly low infection rate, especially a country in a colder climate where this has greater opportunity for spreading, if they're able to maintain normal life, that maybe will give us a pattern that we can copy and get back to normal and save our economy. Because right now I'm a lot more worried about the devastating results of the economy and a potential collapse than I am the disease itself. And I'm in the high risk category since I'm 75. And even though I'm in the high risk category, I'm more concerned about the devastation over the reaction to it than I am the virus itself. In the United States, for instance, about 1% of the people that get it will die. And that will probably go down as they get more treatments. That malaria drug they've come up with, they say, is showing quite a bit of promise. And so things should get better over the next few weeks. Well, let me clarify that. The number of outbreaks and everything are going to get worse for a period of time. But the curve that is going up will level off a little bit more than anticipated, hopefully, if we can have some breakthroughs. And human ingenuity always comes up with solutions that the people that make these computer projections did not take into account. Matter of fact, the first projections that were made on this predicted over 2 million deaths in the United States alone. So that's way down now to less than 10% of that. So we can hope that within the next few weeks we can establish where we are going with this. And when people get an idea of where we're going, then a lot of the fear around it will subside and it'll give us more power to return to normal. Okay, my friends, any comments or questions?
Yes,
Yeah,
I
it's
have a
amazing.
question.
Yeah, Curtis?
I was just going to say it's amazing how many businesses are shutting down over this that will affect the economy. I went
Oh,
to
yeah,
get,
it'll be affected for some time.
yeah, I went to get milk. We get it from a local dairy. It's unprocessed and it's just pure cream. There's cream on the top of the jar.
Really?
It
Yeah,
says this is the last time that you can get it because they're shutting us down. We have to be tested every day.
really?
And yeah, and it's not just from the virus. It's some government sanctioned program that's. I think they just want to shut down all the dairies that are distributing milk without it being processed the way they want.
Yeah,
it
I
to.
saw something on the internet about the dairy farmers dumping milk or some crazy thing. It was disturbing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no more unprocessed milk. It's all gotta come through the stores, and it's not nearly as good.
Oh, he was selling raw milk and they made him shut it down? Yeah,
Right.
they've been going after the raw milk people for years, trying to get rid of them.
Yeah, this gave them a good excuse.
Yeah, if you can get raw milk, it's a lot healthier for you than pasteurized milk. But
Yeah, so we bought 5 gallons.
yeah.
If it was some powers that be that were creating this to create a worldwide panic, they seem to be disappointed by it, because instead of mass panic, it's turned into everybody's writing humorous songs and creating videos about it. They're making fun of it instead of panic.
Well, that's what you got to do to stay sane. You know, you got to keep your sense of humor.
Yeah, and the population, I mean, not every single person, but you know, key people have just stepped in at the right time. It's like now, within only a few weeks, now you can go to church online. You don't have to miss your church. Right here, there's a church in Paris, Texas, that's doing that, and they might even stretch it out to where they'll have it in the parking lot. You can attend church in your car, kind of thing. It's
Yeah.
like people are coming up with these great ideas of how we can deal with this, and it's like it's not coming down from one source. It's everybody is coming up with this. Oh well, we'll beat this. We don't have to be panicked. Let's be reasonable, and coming up with some cool solutions.
Yeah. Yeah, there's what's going to be interesting is to see how this is going to change us when the virus is gone. We might a lot of people might decide, well, you know, there's a bunch of stuff I was doing that I didn't really need to do. Or I'm happier doing things a little bit different way. Or they might decide to maybe use things like Zoom that we're using right at this moment more often than they did before. There's going to be some permanent changes after everything, all the dust settles on this. So it's going to be interesting to see what they are. And then a lot of things will go back to normal. We'll go back to normal with our sports activities, I'm sure. I think sports will be the first thing that people will glom onto when normalcy returns, because there's nothing more energized than a sports fan. Okay, I think somebody else had a comment. Who is that?
I
Maria.
think it was
Maria?
me. Thank you. I have two questions. One of the questions is Bill Gates and the vaccines that he wants to have people to take. And then it is about the full armor of God, which is in Ephesians in the New Testament. The
Yeah.
full armor of God. I think it is a very vital thing to put on these times.
Yeah, I remember that scripture. I can't quote it right offhand, but it talks about putting on the full armor of God and having your
It's in book of Ephesians, Ephesians 6.
yeah.
Yes.
Can you find that and read it to us,
Yep.
Solomon?
Okay.
Yes.
All
Have
right.
you got it? Why don't you find that and
Yeah.
you can read it to us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, we still have that one thing to consider, that the outcome of this may be that the world will be more cooperative and people will begin to break down the barriers.
Yeah. No matter what happens, there's a positive and negative that can be the result of it. So this can result in more something positive if we have the right attitude. Now, Maria asked about Bill Gates and vaccinations. While Solomon's looking up that scripture, I'll comment on vaccinations a little bit. If they get
Yeah,
a
I want to read it.
yeah, if they get a vaccination for this virus, that would be great. I think there's way too much attention on vaccinating us on everything. Giving a little kid 15
Yeah.
vaccinations just goes
Okay.
against my grain, and a lot of people are alarmed that there's a
Okay,
lot
I
of
got the
stories
scripture
about
already.
kids getting autism and stuff after they got a whole bunch of vaccinations. But I think vaccinations for something death-threatening, if it's proven to be safe, is okay. But forcing a whole bunch of vaccinations on things that are not life-threatening, I'm totally against. But yeah, Solomon, you want to read that to us?
Okay, yeah, it's Ephesians 6, starting from verse 10. It says, finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore take unto you the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day. And having done all to stand, stand therefore, having your loins get about with truth, get about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness, and your feet shod with the preparation for the gospel of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith you shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God.
Yeah, it's really good. You know, even if you don't believe in the Bible, that would be that's an inspiring words there. It makes a very interesting statement about spiritual wickedness in high places. High places
Yes.
comes from a Greek word that can be translated as celestial places or heavenly places. So it's uh, it's interesting that so Paul tells us there's spiritual wickedness in high celestial places that we actually have to wrestle against. So that's a very interesting statement. We may have more deception may go on a higher level than we even realize. We may have uh, uh, to deal with entities that are very advanced that are sending illusion to lead us in the wrong direction. And there's certainly a lot of things out. There's all kinds of channel material, revelations out there, and hardly any of them agree with everything, with each other. You can't find two of them that agree with with each other 100%. So
there is this talk about 5G in relation to the virus. There's a lot of news, on YouTube going on about the 5G and the coronavirus.
yeah, I've read a little bit of both sides on that, and one thing I read that was somewhat comforting was that the 5G radiation is a lot lower than the 4G. The amount given out, because they say our equipment is much more sensitive, so it doesn't need as high of sending energy as the previous. So that was I found that interesting. On the other hand, I've heard all kinds of horror stories about how this is supposed to drive everybody crazy and give them illness, and so other people even saying it's caused the virus. And so there's a lot of stuff out there that we have to sort through. Maybe coming from spiritual wickedness in high places, who knows?
Yeah.
Okay, any other comments before we sign off? You've been a good group today.
Well, that comment at the end of the Great Invocation about sealing the door where evil dwells, I believe it was meant to be cosmic evil.
Yeah, he says it is an evil like foaming at the mouth, monster, devils, and that type of thing. It's not evil as we normally think about it, but it's actually an evil that I think that threatens the free will of mankind. And Hitler opened that door to that evil. And so if you want to get an idea of the evil he was talking about, look at Nazism and what it represented. That was the type of evil. And what they wanted to do was they wanted to control the minds of humanity so that they were forced to conform to their way of thinking and didn't have any independence of thought. The basic evil is that which takes away the free will of humanity. The free will of humanity is what must remain above anything else. Because if we have free will, then we have power to accomplish anything that is good in the end. Okay, any other comments before we sign off? Okay, appreciate everybody being here, and we will see you next Sunday, all being well, and hopefully things will get back to normal here soon, and we'll continue our standard lessons.
Yeah. There you
Thank you.
go. Peace
Bye,
on earth.
everybody. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye, keep safe. Live long and
Thanks,
prosper.
Thank you.
Come to class on Tuesday.
Okay.
Okay.